that Sean Payton was traded by my New Orleans Saints to the Denver Broncos for a 29th overall pick this year and a second pick this year as well. The Saints turned around and traded a third rounder up to get that second rounder for this year and obviously sent Sean Payton out the door. So the immediate reaction from a major Saints fan, I'll just be frank, the "my heart isn't in it" comment really seems like bullshit right now. Clearly the last and the latest run of New Orleans exhausted him. Obviously, we had the no call. The year before we had the freaking missed tackle. We had what should have been called offensive pass interference on the Vikings just 2 years after the Minneapolis Miracle. He throws 3 picks in his final game, and then Sean Payton goes 9-8 with the Saints. And if Jaquiski Tartt makes an interception, the New Orleans Saints, if Jaquiski Tartt intercepts Matt Stafford in that NFC title game, I remember I was standing at the Hill. Shout out to my Hill folks out there in Sanby. If you're watching this show, any of y'all right now, I know y'all are probably going ham and serving the tables like crazy, but I remember when, all of that was happening, and it was just like, man, I know it was so much. I remember standing at the Hill watching that game and knowing that Sean Payton with 9-8, with Ian Book, with Trevor Siemian, with freaking Jameis Winston, with Taysom Hill, that, the dude won 9 games. So immediate reaction, I really don't felt like we got enough. I said, and a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people are, in the podcasting game, in the NFL world and stuff, they're like, oh, like the Saints have I'm not going to say elite defense. They did kind of get to the elite status, like better than good, but not great status towards the end of the year. They were not great or really even good, in my opinion, for at least half or 75, 80% of the season. But the defense, obviously you got Kamara, which is kind of worrying me. I feel like the hot days of Kamara are gone. Obviously Michael Thomas has dwindled away, but they got Chris Olave, they got Rashid Shaheed. So like they've got some promise in the team, right? And, my personal thing was you look at the quarterback talent that's in this draft class and you're like, okay, I was really hoping for Houston. I was really hoping for Arizona to be able to trade for him so they could come off with that second or third overall pick. Maybe Indianapolis with that 4th overall pick. But here's why I think Sean Payton would be worth that and why he needed it. Why is he worth that one? The New Orleans Saints had 1 playoff win, if I'm not mistaken, before Sean Payton showed up in the 40 years without him. Sean Payton comes in first year, 2006, year after Katrina, first year back in the Dome, NFC title game. Obviously, we get waxed out by the Bears, but it is what it is. The New Orleans Saints were in the NFC title game. Like, we were one of the worst sports franchises in history. 3 years later, we go on to win the Super Bowl. We were pretty competitive up until Bountygate happened. Obviously, a lot of 7-9 seasons, and then the 2016 and 17 draft class between Kamara, Thomas, Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, just all the guys that were really out there. I mean, picking up DeMario Davis, Marcus Williams, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, like that draft turned around the Saints. And so the way that he was able to basically take one of the worst franchises in history and make them a contender for a better part of 15 years, it's pretty respectable. You look at the Denver Broncos. Hasn't been the greatest ever since Peyton Manning left. Clearly, your inspection period wasn't long enough on Russell Wilson, and so now you figured out that he was only capable of winning 5 games under Nathaniel Hackett, one of the few coaches to not even make it through an NFL season. And again, Broncos fans, they're tired of hearing the conversation. Man, that roster's so good. Man, that secondary's so good. Man, that team is so good. Oh, but we have Drew Lock. Oh, we have, what was it, Brett Rippey in at one point? And then you have Russell Wilson come in for a whopping 5 wins. So realistically, off the bat, like I said, the "my heart isn't in it" comment feels like bullshit because, Sean Payton left. And when, he was like, my heart's not in it, it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. And I just think realistically he wanted out. He was tired of, let's be real. Nobody really wants to live in New Orleans unless you have to. I just went there back in October. Shout out Michael Darby. If you're watching the show, he watched the Saints-Bengals game. And it's just not a pretty place to be. You go there for a week, you get drunk, hit Bourbon Street, like go see the French Quarter, maybe catch a Pelicans game or a Saints game, and then like you're gone. You're catching beads at Mardi Gras and you're done. So it's not really a place you wanted to grow up, a place you wanted to live, a place you wanted to, really actually raise a family. And there were rumors, we all know Sean Payton wanted the Dallas job, wanted the Green Bay job. Mike McCarthy called Sean Payton when Mike McCarthy got the Green Bay job, and then Mickey Loomis called Sean Payton and said, hey, we'd like to bring you on, into which Sean Payton walked in, turned it around. So to watch Sean Payton do that, and then for basically, 1 year without Drew Brees. I can't even get in the playoffs. You still win 9 games. Oh, my heart's not in it anymore. Is your heart really not in it, Sean? Or was it just the fact that you saw not even a rebuild, but a slight rebuild or a minor teardown coming for the New Orleans Saints? So my heart's not in it. I don't want to hear that, bro. Don't want to hear that. And I just want to say for the whole my heart's not in it comment, if y'all watch The Herd, love Colin Cowherd, Colin Cowturd, whatever y'all want to call him. I think his takes are great. Love his segments. He's just a great guy. I love the show. He does what he does very well. Sean Payton was literally on there, and this should have been the indicator to me. First of all, he was on Fox wearing blue and orange ties. But then he basically said, find me all of Russell Wilson's 30-plus yard passes. Find me all of Russell Wilson's touchdown passes inside the 20, and then we need to line up his greatest hits to make sure that those song lyrics are always available for him to play his best tune. So he was basically saying on live TV with a very well-known broadcaster on FS1, who Sean Payton was also under, saying how he would dig into Russell Wilson and basically dissect it to where he'd be able to turn it around. So if that wasn't an indicator, I don't really know what was. Cowturd, he gave y'all the "it's me, not you" speech. Ski up. They done sold us a lemon. Facts. Exact same record. Did you? Ooh. Wow. Best trade for the Saints in years. Shut the hell up, Ken. As you probably laugh over there in your living room with your coffee. Chance, this is a good one here. Ooh, I need to change the graphic. We are duking it up. Hey, but it's all good. Let me pop this out of here. Yep. There we go. So we'll just be able to cut that. Yeah, you'll see the lower third and the bottom while it's on YouTube, but it's all good. You know what we were about here. So Chance says, did you see that Sean Payton and Mike McCarthy have the exact same record? The only difference is McCarthy has more playoff wins. How do you feel about that? Because one is considered great and the other is considered average. Damn, that's really good because Sean Payton won it in 2009. Mike McCarthy won it in 2010, respectively, with Drew Brees and then Aaron Rodgers. I just personally think and really know in a way that Sean Payton is an overall better play caller and slightly better situational coach than Mike McCarthy. And Sean Payton's had his moments of outthinking the room and oh my God, like this, that, and the third. Not calling the right plays. Like, why are you putting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on, as a rookie on George Kittle? I was really on Dennis Allen, but there's been instances like in the NFC title game, the Saints pass at Michael Thomas, it hits the floor. It's like, why, it hits the turf. It's like, why are you not rushing the ball? So Sean Payton has had this, I'm not necessarily thinking specifically in the moments. So that, that's just kind of one thing that I got to say about that comment there, Chance, but that was a good one, man. Way to dig that up. Ski up. Yeah, you already know, Howard. My boy Allen up there with the facts. Peyton works the clock better. Yeah, 100%. You go ahead and tell him in the chat, Ken. I'm going to get back to the show. I knew I could count on you. But yeah, so we know how Sean Payton turned it around in New Orleans, right? Now, do I think it will work? I do believe Sean Payton will make this work, especially with, how I just said about how he turned around New Orleans. Clearly it was, a dumpster fire when he came there, and he's definitely got his work cut out for him right there. He's offensive minded. He's always had the Saints offense very, very dynamic. You go take a look at his numbers on Pro Football Reference. The dude was in like the top. I don't think Sean Payton ever fell outside of the top 8 or 9 in offensive yards in any year of his tenure with the Saints outside of the very last one. Obviously, he was suspended for Bountygate, and he was always in the tops of the league in passing yards, besides for the very last year when he was very, very low. Clearly, Jameis Winston, Ian Book, Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill being your quarterback. But you look at the fact that him and Drew Brees came over in the same year to New Orleans, and Drew Brees turned into a legend under Sean Payton. Russell Wilson would not have been drafted without Drew Brees' success story, in my personal opinion. Both Drew Brees and Russell Wilson have accuracy. They have one of the best deep balls we've ever seen from both of them. Obviously, when Drew was in his prime, Russell Wilson's just a couple of seasons removed from throwing a great deep ball in the NFL. Both very intelligent, both big playmakers, and they can take over a game at any point. They're Super Bowl winners. They're legends. Like, we know this about Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. But there are the stories about Russ's teammates kind of being out on him. He's got his whole office at the whole Denver organization, which I don't really think is a big deal. You're asking a guy to run $1 billion franchise. He's the leader of your team. 5 wins doesn't look sexy when you have your own office in the facility. But I'm just saying, like, we've had the stories of Russell Wilson's teammates possibly being out on him. So, you got the issues with the antics and the approach to things at times, whether it's the high knees onto the plane, whether it's, the Mr. Unlimited. Like, we know that about Russell Wilson, okay? That was never a story with Drew Brees. So to me, the question now is, and I think he's capable, and I want to say I saw it a couple times in New Orleans, but does Sean Payton have it in him to, potentially get some of these characteristics out of the locker room to really, I think and I know he'll see Russell Wilson for who he truly is, but will he really be able to get those characteristics out of the locker room and really get the players to buy back in, knowing that that's how some of these people feel about Russell Wilson? Oh, man, we're an hour into the show, and I'm just digging it. Peyton wins a Super Bowl within the next 3 years. Ken, I'm not going to be mad about that, and I honestly hope he does, because I'll be rooting like hell for Peyton, for almost said Peyton Manning, for Sean Payton, almost said Russell Wilson, for Sean Payton to get his second, along with Russell Wilson's second and Russell Wilson's third appearance. So we know that Sean Payton has his work cut out for him. The team just got sold. They're coming off a head coach getting fired midseason. They were the worst offense in the NFL last year. You had a very confusing, broken type of Russell Wilson. So this definitely will be exciting to see how this unfolds. And he shows us what he's been able to do before, and honestly, how Sean Payton is going to be able to unlock Russell Wilson. I feel like, people always said in the later days that people are, fans, and even me included, obviously being a fan, were saying like, man, Sean Payton really had to dumb the game down because of Drew Brees' really flail-like arm. And so now Sean Payton's going to get a big play, big arm, mobile, ad-libbing quarterback in Russell Wilson. Will definitely be something to see. And as a Saints fan, I did feel like, and like I said, we all knew Sean had to change the offense to compensate for Drew's weaker arm in those later years. So this could show us new things with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, with Jerry Jeudy, with Cortland Sutton, with Javonte Williams, with my boy Latavius Murray, who always holds it down with the L train. You already know what time it is. When he makes his way back, Javonte Williams, when he makes his way back, that's going to be a sight to see. Now, did the Saints get enough for Sean Payton? And as a fan, again, my heart tells me no. We're not completely lost in the NFL. Like I said, besides quarterback, we have skilled position players on both sides of the ball between AK, obviously Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, Rashid Shaheed, Jawan Johnson has really come around this year. We know what the defense was last year. And again, I was really hoping for us to be able to leverage with Houston, maybe Arizona or Indianapolis with those second, third, and fourth picks. But Sean Payton has shown us, now only one time, but I think turning around an entire organization, you kind of only need to do something that big one time in order to get paid what some people are saying $100 million damn contract over 5 years, which $20 million for a head coach is a lot. And Sean Payton is Sean Payton, but you do just have to keep that in mind as you're, wanted to bring him in, probably get more weapons for Rush, probably build this team into that perennial contender underneath Sean Payton, so Sean Payton can also have that control. So do be a little careful, Denver, on what that deal is going to consist of. Now, to me, this warranted at least 2 first-round picks or 1 top 10 pick in this coming draft. But I will say the longer Sean Payton stayed removed from the game, the less New Orleans could have possibly received. Of course, we need a quarterback. We need offensive and defensive line, which is so weird to say. And we need secondary and a corner and or a safety. Billy Ho, welcome back. Appreciate you. Ken, thank you for staying so loyal in the chat with me, my friend. Now, after all that with Sean Payton, 29th overall pick, we got a second rounder. We had to give up a third and Sean Payton to get both of those. Should New Orleans try to trade up with this outcome? Do you think that the Saints could make a move for quarterback in a super loaded draft like we have this year and really be able to push forward and trade up, honestly, to get a quarterback in this draft? Let me just say it. I wouldn't be a fan if I tell you that the Saints shouldn't try and jump to the top 2. Yes, the top 2 spots of this NFL draft. You take the 29th overall pick that you just got. You take next year's first rounder. Hear me out. You take Michael Thomas because he's already headed out. And you possibly take Caden Ellis as well. Pete Warner's going to fill in great for Demario Davis when he goes. I think Pete Warner's better than Caden Ellis. That's a package right there, dude. That's 2 first-round picks, a wide receiver 2 probably at best when he comes back. Michael Thomas has been out of the game for a while. I kind of think he might retire at this point. The dude got his bag. No shot at you, Mike. And then Caden Ellis, who clearly played well for the Saints this year. You jump to the top of the draft whether it's, a top 2 pick, a top 4 pick. I think you have to look at a top 4 pick in this NFL draft because you're going to get either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. I've been saying this for weeks. The Saints' next 5 years rode on what compensation they got for Sean Payton and how they utilize that capital to better the roster. If that's not possible, hang back for a Hendon Hooker, who is not getting a lot of talk in this NFL draft. I get it. ACL's been crazy, this, that, and the third. But Hendon Hooker's huge. The dude can spin it. The dude can move. I wouldn't even be opposed to a Stetson Bennett, to be honest with you. I know everyone's not crazy about him. He's older than dirt, 12 years of eligibility, whatever the hell you want to say about him. The dude won back-to-back national championships. He's the mailman, you know what I mean? But Stetson Bennett really, really rise to the occasion with Georgia. And I'm not going to say that's going to translate to NFL greatness, but I wouldn't be mad if we drafted Stetson Bennett or obviously Hendon Hooker. Man, the show is loaded. Me too. I love Stroud's upside. Good call on the package. Thank you so much, Ken. Yes, they should trade up. The trade puts them at what? The 29th spot in the draft? Yes, Billy, it does. So the Saints gave up Sean Payton and a 3rd-round pick. Good one. Let me go and pop that bad boy on the screen. The Saints gave up Sean Payton and a 3rd-round pick to get the 29th overall pick and a 2nd-rounder for this year. Billy Ho said, as a Saints fan, what do you want to see happen? Precisely what I just laid out there. You take the 29th overall pick, you take your 1st-round pick next year, you take Michael Thomas, and you take Caden Ellis. If you're really freaking desperate, Ryan Ramczyk. Like you're, whoa, Adam, what are you talking about? How are you going to protect the quarterback? I get it. Saints draft line very well. Good for the last few drafts. Had to be careful there. Not a fan of Ruiz, not really a fan of some of these other guys that we got. But yeah, you got to go get a quarterback. And I get it. Oh, tank for Caleb Williams, tank for Drake May. That's going to be the Texans and the Cardinals next year. D'Amico Ryans is going to have that job for 27 seconds, and then they're going to have the number 2 overall pick again, and then he's probably going to get turned over. And that's not a shot at D'Amico Ryans. Don't think that at all. But it was just like with Lovie Smith. They're bringing it in to fill the position. He had a little hype. Again, I will never probably be down for a defensive coordinator for 2023 and beyond as a head coach in the NFL. But yeah, you got to go quarterback. If it's not Stroud or Young or maybe Will Levis, you got to cross your fingers for Hendon Hooker, move around somewhere else in the draft or go get Stetson Bennett. Or even if you're desperate, I've heard a little bit about Tanner McKee out of Stanford, I believe is where he's from. But either way, we'll have to see.